Okay, this is gonna be a half second because like our Uber driver's gonna be here in a minute, but Shane Laughter vlogs are about to get a lot more exciting.
Wow, I can't believe it's been a year and 2 months since I shot that little clip. And it's been almost a full year since I returned from my semester abroad in Budapest, where I went to all these different European countries. I'm back in LA, sorry for the crappy dorm room background, but I think it's about time, after a lot of perspective, to rank all 12 major cities I went to in Europe from worst to best. I also have a list of other places I went to that I wouldn't consider cities that you'll find in the description below. But let's get into this list. And we're gonna start with number 12, the worst one. The only one I would actually say is bad, Athens, Greece, the oldest city on this list. And don't get me wrong, from a positive point of view, I'll say that it's very single-faceted, but the ruins are amazing. I mean, there's no way to doubt that the Acropolis was one of the best things I did in all of Europe. There's ancient cemetery, the ancient agora, it's fantastic. But it's a very single-faceted trip because outside of that, well, there's the best food I had in Europe because I love Greek food in Greece lives up to the hype. So you got those two things. Eat and see 3,000-year-old ruins. There's not much else to do. They have, it's very catered to tourists, which is great. There's a lot of English and the people are generally very nice, but it can feel very forced. It just doesn't feel very natural. It feels very modern. And then you go outside the touristy areas and it's unfortunately a very sad state. My hotel was not in the best area and you see where the actual locals are living. Everything's covered in graffiti. The sidewalks are in 8 earthquakes hit. And it's just an unfortunate place, and it definitely did not feel the most comfortable while I was there. Yeah, after 2 days, I was very ready to go. Now at number 11, I have Cologne, Germany. And now this is a city, I'll be honest, I mostly went to because it's near Phantasialand, which is the theme park I really wanted to go to. But it's a great city in its own right in some capacity. First off, the Cologne Cathedral. I mean, it's the most visited building in Germany, and oh my god, by far the best church I saw. Still so awestruck that I saw that thing when you round the corner and you're just looking up 500 feet in the air. It's insane. But besides that, I will say the Rhineland food exceeded my expectations. The German fair that I happened to see was awesome, and it's a cute small old town area, but most of it was destroyed in World War II, so it feels very new, but not in the nicest way, and it's a very industrial. It gave me the Detroit of Europe vibes, if that makes sense. So I wasn't the most impressed, and it wasn't the most friendly, welcoming place, and a day there was enough, especially for a city of its size. There should be more to do, but great chocolate museum. Now we're getting to the top 10. All these cities I actually like a lot. This is Cluj-Napoca, Romania. I spent one very, very long day there, and it was freezing. It was 32 degrees Fahrenheit, near 0 degrees Celsius, and holy crap, for being such a cold day, it was very, very fun. Best Christmas market I saw by far. It was all locals, very cheap, friendly people, great English. They were so excited to see Americans visiting their city because that never happens, and I was glad to be there. There's some really cool, unique things I did. I really loved the botanical garden where there's this huge plant library that made me feel straight out of Jurassic Park or something. It was really sick. And there was a beautiful countryside too. It's very hilly, and I thought the actual topography and geography of it was some of the best I saw all across Europe from when I visited. And I thought it was just a very clean, nice, safe city. It's kind of a college town. Probably no more than 2 days to spend there, but I was really impressed, and Romanian food slaps. So now number 9, a controversial pick. Vienna, Austria, which is one of the most visited cities in Europe, and I understand why. Here's what I'll say about Vienna. It's a city that is very bland in terms of when you're just walking around it. It's a huge city, and I did a lot of walking, and it's a great place to live, it seems like. It's very clean, very safe feeling, very great infrastructure, well organized. But the architecture is so bland and boring. There's a lot of Soviet remnants still there. It just doesn't have that much character to it. But what it lacks in actual just ambiance, it makes up for in things to do. It is probably the museum capital of Europe, the Washington, D.C. of Europe. I mean, I only visited a few, and I love them. The Imperial Treasury of, like, the Habsburg dynasty, amazing. The Belvedere Art Museum inside of an actual palace, amazing. And there's so much more to see. So I love those aspects. And Wiener Prater, this massive second oldest amusement park in the world, that had a great ambiance. That was one of, like, probably the top 5 things I did in all of Europe. So great things to do in Vienna and a lot to do. Like, you could spend a full week there. I only spent like 2.5 days. It just wasn't the most exciting place to walk around in. Now, the other probably most controversial pick at number 8 is Amsterdam, which is a city that is actually fantastical to walk around in. I mean, the architecture is beautiful, although it is a lot newer than some of these other cities. And the canals are, of course, beautiful. But my problem with the city is that it's a quaint, pretty small city that's been overrun by tourists. This isn't like some massive world city like New York where it can handle all the tourists and it's made for that. It doesn't feel that way. So what you get is a lot of touristy things that are frustrating, a lot of tourists overcrowding everything. And this is like November, October that I went. But the things to do here are great. There's a lot of museums. The Rijksmuseum was an amazing art museum, and there's some hidden treasures too, like Our Lord in the Attic Church. And the food is very diverse. I will say that because it's a diverse city, but Dutch food is not it. So not the most exciting and like immersive place to really get away, but I can see it's a very nice city, even if it was at times overwhelming. Now at number 7, we're going about 30-45 minutes south to The Hague. I always spent a day in it, and frankly, I don't know if you need more than a day, but nicest people I've met all across Europe. Again, they're Dutch, so their English is great. They were so excited that an American was visiting, which again, like with Cluj-Napoca, makes me happy. And the things I did here were awesome. The historical architecture is great, it goes back to like the Renaissance. I went to this like 1500s prison museum, which was so cool. I went to a beautiful garden with a Japanese garden that was only open a few weeks of the year. Gorgeous. They have a really nice old like family amusement park that was really well themed and really friendly called Drivli. And oh my god, I had my best meal in Europe here, which is ironic because you're in the Netherlands. But you know what they're known for? Because it was a former colony, Indonesian food. And I finally got the famous rice table, as it's called in English. I still think about it to this day. A lot of great shopping. It felt very new and modern and fresh, but also had a lot of old historical aspects to it. Just a beautiful, nice place. Now, number 6, we're going to Netherlands neighbors to the south. This is Brussels, Belgium, the capital. This is a city that does not get many tourists. At least people don't really talk about it, but I think it's very underrated. Best town square of any city I went to, like Grand Place. First time I walked in, I saw all the gold trimmings on everything. It was beautiful. And the food is really great. Belgian food, oh my gosh, it's like really good. And their sweets, even better than America. I think that's the best sweets of any country. I mean, the waffle blows any out of the water. The chocolate's amazing. Great diversity of food. Also, I had some really good Italian food there. I had some really good West African food there. And it just felt like a really clean, fresh, modern city. In some ways, the closest to the US, at least of mainland Europe. But it had its own character. I mean, it was the least English spoken of any city I went to, but the people were still really nice. There was a few really cool things I saw, like the Instruments Museum, a beautiful city park. Just a great place, highly underrated. And we're gonna hit off the other Belgian city, go a little bit to the east, and you got Ghent, which, I'm so glad my friends recommended me to this place. It's basically Amsterdam if it was smaller, a little bit older, and not overrun by tourists. Also, it's a college town, and it is great. So it has the fresh modernity of like a college town where you can get a lot of great diverse food options, but the churches are gorgeous. I mean, all these like 1500s like buildings set against the canals, even more beautiful than Amsterdam. And it felt very authentic. You don't have to worry about people trying to haggle you with like, tourism stuff. And the food was great because it's Belgium. The sweets, the Kupperden, if you don't know what those are, look it up. They're so good. It was a great time. One of the best city museums I've been to. It's actually a pretty interesting city in terms of trade. There were some really quirky, cool things like this graffiti alley. There was a superhero-themed bar. Like, just wild stuff. Ghent, put that on your bucket list. Highly recommend. Okay, and we're at the top 4. These are some special cities to me and hold a place in my heart. And number 4, more than any of them, this is Budapest, where I spent 3.5 months living there. And honestly, I don't think there's a better city to study abroad than Budapest, at least of the ones I went to, because it's the perfect balance of I was still finding new things to do, 3.5 months after being there. There's so much to it. The Buda and Pest sides are so distinct across the Danube with those beautiful bridges, and it's cheap, which is awesome. Great Hungarian food, great Turkish food, great East Asian food, and most importantly, best architecture of any city I went to. After living there for like literally months, I was still looking up and gawking at some of these buildings I had been seeing every single day because they were that just stupendously beautiful. So look up pictures and put Budapest on your bucket list. It is one of the most culturally rich and just magnificent places to visit in Europe. Definitely. And at number 3, this is an interesting one because I only spent a day, but this is Bratislava, Slovakia. It's the capital. It's only like an hour and a half away from Vienna. So if you're doing a trip to Vienna and Budapest, definitely recommend going. We did a little triangle. So of all the cities, this is the one that I would choose to live in if I was to go live in Europe. It's super nice. Felt like a very high standard of living. There's not so much to do as a tourist. I think the old town was amazing. I had so much fun there. The castle's so grand, some beautiful churches, the Slovak food is really good, and there's a few other like unique touristy things here and there, but it's not really about the tourists. It's about the locals being super friendly and just overall it feeling so homey. I was there for a day, but we happened to be on like National Food Truck Day, so we went to the mall because we didn't have anything else to do because, again, there's not so much for tourists to do. Beautiful mall. We walk outside, there's like a live band, all these food trucks. We just felt like we blended in with the crowd. We're walking along the river. It was just probably my favorite day of the entire semester. It was with great friends. We were just walking around. There's so much greenery. It's not too small, but it's not too big. Yeah, it's just a beautiful place that not enough people are talking about. And now the big 2. These are in some ways super predictable. It depends if you like a big world city, and this is a complete contrast to Bratislava. But number 2, we got London, which is my first city I went to in Europe, and oh my gosh, I was in love. It is just wondrous. The architecture is really something special, but it felt like it blended like some of the like American modernism. You know, there's a lot of skyscrapers and all that stuff with this old-fashioned Europe. It was a great entryway. Obviously, they speak English, which is great. And the people were super nice. Best food I had in Europe. Sorry, I know I got a lot of British viewers. I didn't love the English food I had there, but it was insane. Honestly, only maybe LA I liked the food more. And that was so fun. I mean, the Tower of London was probably a top 5 thing I did all of Europe. The Globe Theatre was really cool. We saw a show at the West End. So there's so much culture. There's so much going on. It felt like you were legitimately in the center of the world. I definitely recommend getting outside of London too because the English countryside is amazing. But yeah, this was a great place, but only is beaten by my number 1, Paris. Yep, and I know a lot of people hate it. They say it's dirty, it's stinky, it's so touristy, the French are snobbish. I did not feel this way. I only spent a few days there. I'll digress. But the things I did were amazing. I'm gonna butcher these names, but the Montmartre, like the hilly artistic neighborhood, was awesome. The Sacré-Cœur, the big church at the top, beautiful at sunset. I didn't even go to the top of the Eiffel Tower, but just seeing it like just made me like freeze up in just amazement. Walking the Champs-Élysées, or I don't know how to say these words. I should have looked up the French. But that main street was like the best tourist street I think I've seen in any city, honestly. I was so excited. The hustle and bustle felt so earned, and it combines like this grand, world feel of London with the wondrous architecture of Budapest. It gave Budapest a run for its money in terms of architecture. And wow, I was just discovering new things constantly that were just amazing. The island in the center of the Seine is wondrous. The catacombs were really exciting. There's so much to do here. I was so sad to leave after only like 3 or 4 days. And I was like, I could have spent 3 weeks here. It is a great, great city. And I thought the French people were really cool. I just learned like maybe 15, 20 words in French to start a conversation, see if they know English, and it worked really well. But yeah, that's my list. I hope you enjoyed watching this. Those are my thoughts, just very basic on my favorite cities in Europe, ranked from number 12 to number 1. Get ready for some more content coming soon. Retrospectives on Europe. I'll be doing more content filming in SoCal since that's where I live, but appreciate you guys watching. Stay tuned for more coming soon. This is Shane Lavender. Like and subscribe if you enjoyed this. Goodbye.